When a conversation gives you an unexplainable chill, treat it as a signal. Something in the other person's tone or timing isn't matching the words. If you ignore that first cue, the gap widens. They begin attributing motives you don't have and feelings you're not feeling. Clarifications disappear the moment you offer them, and the exchange locks into a narrative you can't correct. Soon you're no longer conversing, you're defending yourself against a role you never agreed to play. Arguing, appeasing, or withdrawing all waste the energy that should serve real connection and purposeful action. This is the moment when the initial unease reveals its importance. A slight tightening in the gut, a fleeting urge to step back, often arrives long before the pattern becomes obvious. When that whisper is heeded early, reducing intimacy, sharing fewer private details, or if necessary, ending contact, the months of erosion never begin. The crucial insight is that no quantity of explanations will dismantle a distortion that was never built on facts in the first place. What is projected outward originated as something unaccepted within. Information cannot cure what the psyche refuses to see. Stepping away, though, is not the whole story. Every time another person's projection bruises you, a question remains. Why did this land with such force? What in you resonated with the charge? Perhaps you carry a fragment of the same trait, smaller, subtler, but present, and the encounter merely lit the fuse. Turning inward with that question dismantles the magnetic hook. The energy once spent in circular defense returns to awareness, humor, and quiet strength. When people have done this interior work, you notice the contrast immediately. Conversation flows without hidden scores to settle. Contradictions can be admitted, tensions explored, vulnerability offered without fear that it will be weaponized. The body relaxes, reassured not by flawless manners but by the felt sense of authenticity across the table. A different, equally dangerous signal arrives from the opposite direction, the person whose social mask is polished to perfection. Words, gestures, smiles, everything lands exactly where convention says it should. Nothing spontaneous escapes. At first the performance looks admirable, yet something in the atmosphere feels oddly airless, like a beautifully staged room with no fresh air. Under the sheen lies a stark division between public image and inner life. When all vitality has been invested in keeping the surface immaculate, the emotions pushed underground ferment. The longer they remain there, the more violently they emerge, sometimes in private cruelty, sometimes in public collapse. What you detected as artificial poise was the tension preceding that inevitable break. A similar risk appears in those who radiate absolute certainty about their virtue or insight. They never question their motives. They stand in perpetual judgment of others. They describe their opinions as truth rather than perspective. That unwavering conviction exerts a strange charisma, especially on people searching for security in a chaotic world. Yet behind the confidence sits an ego swollen beyond its natural size, welded to an abstract ideal. Sooner or later the weight of that identification cracks the psyche that carries it, and the fallout rarely lands solely on the one who inflated. Anyone in orbit gets pulled into the collapse. What protects you from these patterns is not suspicion but steadiness. The more intimate you are with your own contradictions, the less tempted you are by borrowed certainty and the less vulnerable to someone else's projected drama. Self-knowledge does not sterilize the personality, it grounds it. When you have looked at your own anger, envy, and need for approval, these forces lose their power to ambush you from the outside. You recognize them, name them, and keep them in dialogue rather than denial. Paradoxically, admitting flaw is the doorway to reliable compassion. You can sit with another person's pain without drowning in it because you are not busy pretending you have none of your own. You can offer help without slipping into savior fantasies because you understand how easily ideals harden into prisons. Presence becomes the default posture. Alert, receptive, and unseduced by extreme stories about anyone's absolute innocence or guilt. In that presence, genuine care stops resembling martyrdom. You notice the point at which listening turns into emotional labor that the other refuses to share. You sense when your practical support begins to shield someone from consequences they need to face. You can decline the role of rescuer without closing the heart. And you can do so early before depletion sets in, because you have learned that your first responsibility is to keep the light in your own house burning. Only a lit house can guide others through darkness. A burnt-out shell helps no one. True maturity is quiet. It has room for "I don't know" and "I was wrong." It entertains multiple interpretations before drawing a conclusion. It moves away from people who distort reality yet wishes them clarity rather than revenge. Above all, it stays curious about the fine tremors that pass through the nervous system during every human exchange. Those tremors never lie. They are the body's early warning that the soul requires space, or that the moment is safe and worth opening to. Learning to trust that language, subtler than thought, older than words, is what ultimately keeps compassion vibrant and burnout at bay. Sometimes the danger is not an individual trait in the other person, but the enormous force moving through them. You feel it when someone's eyes take on that fixed brilliance, when every sentence circles back to one grand theme: salvation, vengeance, purity, cosmic justice. The vocabulary shifts, but the structure is the same. An overpowering idea has annexed their personality. In daily life, it turns conversations into sermons and choices into ultimatums. At first, the certainty can sound inspiring. Soon it becomes claustrophobic. You realize no nuance, no complexity, no ordinary human need can coexist with the storyline that drives them. What looks like passion is really possession, and the most reliable response is distance. Not confrontation, not persuasion, simply removing yourself from the orbit before your own balance starts to tilt. Possession can be harder to spot when the role is less dramatic. The perpetual helper, the tireless martyr, the unwavering victim. Each of these masks an archetype every bit as hungry for psychic fuel as the messianic crusader. Interactions proceed smoothly until you step outside the script assigned to you. Then the temperature drops, the dialogue turns brittle, and you discover the rigid core beneath the gentle exterior. The sign to watch for is that sudden shift from warmth to chill the instant you fail to confirm the story. Authentic connection survives disagreement, possession does not. A different but equally draining pattern shows up in people whose lives replay the same painful scene under new costumes. New job, same betrayal. New relationship, same abandonment. New city, same isolation. They recount the latest episode with genuine confusion, as though fate singled them out for torment. If you look closely, the plot points repeat with uncanny fidelity. Without conscious malice, they cast you in a role you did not audition for, hoping the scene will finally resolve. It never does. Compassion invites you to listen once, maybe twice. Wisdom advises you not to become the next actor in a production that has no finale. Offer perspective if it is wanted. Refuse the invitation to play the villain or the savior. All of these warning signs, projection, perfected mask, inflation, possession, repetition, trace back to the same root: disowned material in the psyche. Whatever is denied inwardly demands expression outwardly, either by being projected onto someone else or by overrunning the personality from within. That is why the ultimate antidote is self-examination. The more territory you claim in your own interior, the less you need others to carry your unlived energies, and the less likely you are to accept theirs. Self-examination is not morbid introspection. It begins with a simple practice of naming what arises: irritation, envy, need to impress. The naming does not judge or justify, it merely shines light. Light alters the chemistry of the emotion, softening its compulsion to act out. Over time, the practice extends to deeper currents: old loyalties, early injuries, secret ambitions. Each recognition removes one hook that other people's projections could latch onto. Paradoxically, it also increases genuine empathy, because the more you acknowledge in yourself, the easier it is to recognize the same complexity in everyone else. As integration deepens, a different quality emerges in daily encounters. You no longer react automatically to praise or blame. Praise is pleasant, blame can sting, yet neither defines you. The space they once occupied is now filled by a stable hum of awareness. From that awareness, you can meet another person's distress without shrinking, another person's certainty without submitting, another person's vacancy without filling the silence with nervous chatter. You discover that presence is not passive. It is the most active ingredient in any room, reorganizing the emotional weather simply by being there. This steadiness does not render life painless. Loss still hurts, injustice still angers, limitations still frustrate. What changes is the absence of added layers: the mental commentary that insists the pain should not exist, the resentment that freezes anger into bitterness, the shame that turns frustration inward. Experience passes through, teaches what it came to teach, and moves on. Energy that once fed psychological storms is now available for precise action, genuine comfort, unforced joy. Relationships evolve under this influence. With some people, the connection deepens because the field is clear of projections and hidden agendas. With others, distance grows, not out of resentment but out of clarity. Paths diverge when roles based on mutual unconsciousness dissolve. Even in distance, there is no need for hostility. The recognition of shared essence remains intact, simply no longer overlaid with expectations that history has proven impossible. Eventually, the early warning system that once felt like mere intuition becomes trusted guidance. A subtle tightening across the solar plexus, a sudden fatigue behind the eyes, a gentle yet unmistakable no in the body, these signals arrive faster than thought. You heed them without dramatics, adjust the conversation, or step away before deeper entanglement begins. Life simplifies. Caring no longer threatens to consume you. Discernment shapes the flow of generosity and keeps the inner reservoir full. That fullness is the paradoxical power at the heart of healthy compassion. It allows you to give freely because you are not giving your life force, you are letting life move through you. It allows you to witness suffering without drowning because you trust the capacity of both yourself and the other to meet what is real. It allows you to retreat without guilt when the encounter demands more than is wise, because you understand that the greater service lies in preserving clarity, not in sacrificing it. In a world that often confuses frantic helping with love, this steadiness looks unusual, sometimes even cold. Yet the people who benefit from it recognize the difference. They feel seen rather than managed, met rather than rescued. And they realize, sooner or later, that the same resource lives in them as well. That recognition, silent and contagious, is how balanced care spreads. One grounded nervous system at a time, lighting quiet beacons in the collective field, making true support possible without anyone burning out along the way.